Greetings, my Israelite brothers and sisters, heirs, joint heirs, adopted, grafted, natural, spiritual, however you may come. You notice I called this KJV, Rules of Engagement. Let me fix my... So let me tell you why I did this. I don't know why my camera is moving unusually too much. Okay. So I called it Rules of Engagement. Let me tell you the background of this subject. Yesterday I was in conversation and someone brought up the book of Nicodemus. The book of Nicodemus. And it was what I want to say is a productive, inquisitive conversation. So that's not a problem there. And I won't go into the depths of that. But I thought, based upon that conversation, I thought it'd be a need to discuss how we should use the King James Version Bible. Now, first of all, I believe that the Most High is totally in control. Most people think that man is in control. I believe that the Most High is in control. Being that he's in control, the book that we have in the land of captivity, I think it's the most authentic book that the Most High has presented before us. And that's the KJV, King James Version. Now, a lot of people say a lot of things. They say, well, King James wrote the Bible. It's his version. That's buffoonery. And quite frankly, I get tired of hearing foolish statements because people don't read. Even history. You can read the accounts of Laodicea and find out how the King James Version got into play and had to do with his version. He didn't take the Bible and make a version out of it and his own thoughts. It's not that at all. Buffoonery, when you hear people say that, it's almost like fools. And when fools make statements, it's almost kind of hard to even deal with that. Fortunately, that was not our line of questions and comments yesterday. But I'm just saying in general, because I deal with people all the time, and they'll leave something in a chat room or something like that, that the King James Version Bible is King James's version and all of that. So let me just say this. Whenever you use the version Bible, the King James Version Bible, there's some rules of engagement that you must realize. I want you to look at math. Math is a system of formulas and equations, and all the time, meaning that we're looking for a solution to a problem. Pretty much whatever you input is going to be consistent. You can't change formulas to get to whatever you do or say. In fact, one of our members was telling me yesterday that perhaps the King James Version Bible is not really correct. Maybe does it? And I was asked, do I think that the King James Version has some mistakes in it? And of course, those that tuned in Friday night, this also came up. But the purpose of this video is based upon my conversation on yesterday, Sabbath. And what I had shared was, whenever you use a formula, if you change the formula, you allow other people to change that same formula. For instance, if you say that this particular section of the Bible is incorrect, it's incorrect, then what you do, you allow others to also pick and choose what's correct and what's incorrect. And that can be a problem. You cannot do that. You cannot pick and choose what you're going to leave in and what you're going to leave out. So my rule of engagement is everything in the Bible is true. Nothing contradicts itself. If there is a contradiction, there has to be an explanation that we can look further into that would explain what appears to be a contradiction. And I give you an example. When the disciples talk about the passion of the Messiah, it all appears that what they're doing is giving different accounts. So which one is it? Did Mary Magdalene and the other Mary go to the grave while it was yet dark at the end of the Sabbath? Did they go there on the first day of the week at the rising of the sun? Or did they go there on the first day of the week while it was yet dark? Which one? Which one? So how do you explain that? Is it contradicting? No. Everybody's giving their account as a testimony from their perspective. But the law never contradicts itself. Now you can say in the books of the testimonies, which is the book of the disciples or the apostles, they're going to give different accounts. We found that out a few weeks ago when we were talking about marriage. And while we were talking about marriage, we found out that some of the people gave a different account as to what had occurred in marriage. One scripture in Matthew says if a man divorces a woman, but then over in, I believe, Luke, it says if a man divorces a woman or if a woman divorces a man. One of the passages says, except it be for fornication, and the other one doesn't even mention fornication. So, which one's true? Is it contradictory? No. You have to put line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. That's how you must read the scriptures. If you don't read the scriptures that way, you're going to be lost. I'll give you another example. There's a scripture that says that no one in Israel can eat blood. But then another scripture says no one of Israel, including the strangers that sojourn with Israel, cannot eat blood. Do they contradict each other? No. You have to use that as building blocks, one above the other, to get the full picture of the understanding. However, the moment you say that, well, that scripture is not what it's saying, or that's wrong, or that's a misinterpretation, or the writers got it wrong. The moment you say that and you use that as a reason as to why you're not understanding something, you may have good intent, but then you have to realize you're allowing somebody else to say the translators got it wrong. That's not what it's saying. So this is the problem when we fall into that arrangement of not using the formula all the time. And the formula that I use is that the scriptures is always right. It's never incorrect. Ever. And the way that we explain something that one is not discussing, The rule is to apply all of the sequential in the discussion regarding when is the first resurrection. If you say, well, that's not what the scriptures are saying, that's wrong, the translators got it wrong, then you're going to allow somebody who celebrates Christmas and Easter and they don't believe in the Sabbath and everything else. Oh, no, that's not it. The translators got it wrong. Because you have done it. You created a formula, and once the formula is created, it can be used at any given time. Formulas are formulas. They don't go into effect until you plug in something. And once you plug in something, the process of the formula is there. So if you tell people, oh, no, that's not right, that's incorrect, the translators got it wrong, that is a formula. Although you just plugged in the subject that you're talking about, somebody else can come in and plug in their subject, and it will still have to be applicable. So what are the rules of engagement when it comes to the King James Version Bible? You can't change it. You can't alter it. There is no contradiction at all. This is why one of my favorite scriptures among the apostles or in the books of the testimony is when Peter said, all of Paul's letters are hard to be understood, especially to those that are wrestling with the scriptures. In other words, you haven't read the scriptures, you don't understand the scriptures, you don't understand Genesis through Malachi, you don't understand time frames, time periods, you don't understand the fact that none of the prophets contradict each other. And once you understand that, then Paul's letters should never be confusing, ever, at all. And we need to be like Daniel. When Daniel read the book of Jeremiah and he couldn't understand what was going on, he went down into prayer. He didn't say, Jeremiah didn't know what he was talking about, so therefore we don't listen to him because he was wrong in this. If you say that a prophet is wrong in anything that he teaches, that he got it off and it's wrong, then you allow other places in the scriptures for somebody else to say, oh, that's wrong. The prophet got that wrong. You have to be very careful in the rules of engagement when it comes to the scriptures. It's just that simple. You have to hold firm that the Bible is a true book. The King James Version is a version that the Most High has given us in the land of captivity, and that's it. That's it. I mean, I'm sorry, that's it. And the moment we go down into the road to say, well, perhaps there's other books. There's other books. There's other books that they don't want us to know about. If you have them, then you know about them. It's just that simple. I've made it a practice. I'm not going to engage in other books. I'm not knocking anybody else that does. But if I cannot teach from the King James Version Bible, I don't need no other book to help me bring out what the scriptures is already bringing out. It's already bringing out. There's nothing new out there. Nothing new. So I was asked to read a couple of books, and I'm always like this. Read the preface. Read the preface. Read the preface of these scriptures. That's all I'm saying. Read the preface. Now, I used to have a Bible called the Haftorah's Septuagint, and I still have it. It's in my library. It was a good book. Somebody told me it's more genuine and authentic than the King James Version Bible. So I opened it up one day and I read through the book of Genesis. And what I liked about this particular Septuagint, it was called the Pentateuch Septuagint, the Pentateuch. And you read the book backwards. In other words, the back of the book is the front of the book. And on one side, it was in what they say Hebrew, and on the other side, it was in English. And then what they would do is they said, this is the Septuagint that we're translating into English. So I looked at it, and then I opened up the King James Version Bible, and I read. There was no difference, none whatsoever, none. There was no difference. And in particular, when people say, well, read this part. So I go back and I read that part. There was no difference from the King James Version Bible. So does that mean that I put down the Septuagint? No. That means you can keep it, you can read it, and there may be other Bibles out there that don't vary far from the King James Version Bible, that maybe they predate the King James Version Bible. But line them up and see if there's anything missing. Is there anything of significant value? For instance, does the scripture says 5 days shall thou labor, but the first day is the Sabbath? If you don't find something paramount in it, then you use it as a book that is reliable. I'm not saying you can't read it, and use it however you want to use it. But does it differ? Even if it predates, does it differ from the King James Version Bible? And if it doesn't, use the book. Read the book and consider it to be an authentic source. And that's what I recommend that you do. I read the book of Jasher at request one time. And I read it, and the book of Jasher is a total of everything. It's like the Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. It's what it's like. It's one book. And so I read it, and I started at the beginning, which was in the book of Jasher. I got into I think around the chapters that it talked about when Abraham was going to sacrifice his son. And one of the things that I immediately recognized that there was a problem is that in the book of Jasher, Isaac was in his 30s. Ishmael was a little bit older than that, probably in his 40s, I'm not for sure. And Abraham was taking his son Isaac up to crucify him. When you read that in the scriptures, it says he was a young lad. A young lad. When you look that up, that's someone who is under the age of 13. So right away, I said, okay, let me just keep listening to it. Then, in the same story, in Jasher, when Abraham and Isaac, when the ram was provided in the bush, Ishmael apparently was there. But that's not the case in the King James Version Bible. On their way back, an old man who is an old man, but he's the devil in disguise, causes Sarah to die. And she dies because she died of joy, because originally the old man approached her and said, hey, I heard that your husband is going to sacrifice your son Isaac. So she was hysterical looking for them. But when a ram was provided in the bush, she went back to her. He says, hey, don't worry. It didn't happen. I got word. Your son's okay. And she died of excitement. You don't read that in the King James Version Bible. In fact, when that happened to the young lad in the King James Version Bible, it was some years later, after Abraham was willing to offer up Isaac, that the mother died. Years later. But in the book of Jasher, it happened the same time period. So right away, I knew, I said, well, let me go back and read the preface. I read the preface, and the preface says, well, this is a group that the book of Jasher has never been found, and it was written, and the authenticity is conjectural. So I started looking up the words, right? Conjectural means not proof. And so not that the book does not exist. What was conjectural was that particular book that I was reading, if it was authentic, is it really the true book of Jasher? Because most people would tell you, and historians would tell you, the book of Jasher has never been found. And the one that we have circulating that says this is the book of Jasher, if you read the preface, it would tell you that this book is conjectural, meaning it's no proof. So, I don't know. I was told to go look for this book. I was asked, not told, to go look for this book of Nicodemus, because in the book of Nicodemus, miraculously, it says that the first resurrection has already taken place. This is the danger, and then that the Bible could be wrong. This is the danger. This is the danger that we run into. When you create a formula for one thing, you allow others to do it for whatever they want to do. You can allow people with Roman Christian ideology to say, well, here's this book. It's called the New International Version. This is what it really was supposed to say, and that's not true. The King James Version, because the New International Version says that Sunday is the Sabbath. So I'm telling you, we're going down the dangerous slope. Be careful what formulas you create. And what I mean by formulas, whatever you say, you're allowing others to do the same thing. And you cannot choose, and you cannot pick and choose when you're going to use the formula. If you're doing algebra, there's a formula. There's one formula that you use for algebra. Okay? You cannot bring in a trigonometry formula to do algebra. And if you do, not only is your answer going to be skewed, but you allow others to use trigonometry equations for an algebra problem. So, I want us to think what we're doing and what we're saying. I want you to think about what the Most High has done. He has given us a book knowing King James may have had some ill intent, but he did not write not one scripture in this version of the Bible that we have. Somebody told me, says, well, he was a pedophile. Why would you want to read that book? I think you ought to read the books that comes before that, because he was a pedophile. Are you kidding me? Did we ever read how the book came and what the order that King James gave in his time? Did we ever read about the council of Laodicea? Do you even know that there was a black man that led the council? There was a Hebrew. Ah, so Israel can wear you out. It can really wear you out. And I leave that to you to say, don't get into the play of saying there's something wrong with the Bible, the book that we have. Don't get into that. Because if we or I or you don't understand something, then what we need to do is go into prayer like Daniel did and seek the answer. The Almighty will send the answer to us. But there's nothing wrong with the book. Nothing wrong with the book at all. Sister Tia says, when you worry about the different Bibles, you miss out on time to study and to become wise in understanding. I agree. That's why I really don't like to really spend the time to do that, to get into that, because it really wastes time. It really does, to what you're doing. Because and let me just say this. Somebody might say, well, how do you feel about the Apocrypha? This is how I feel about the Apocrypha. The Apocrypha was originally in the Bible. I have read the Apocrypha. I have not found anything in the Apocrypha that perhaps may conflict with the Scriptures. So what does that mean? I don't need the Apocrypha. I can just stick with the Scriptures. Somebody said, well, what do you mean by that? Because I haven't found anything that contradict the Scriptures. There was no contradictions that I have found. So therefore, why do I need to add an extra book when I've already got one book? Now, if you're into deep studying and you've mastered the book, maybe you want to get a broader perspective, then have at it. Really have at it. I think if you got the time, have at it. But if you try to find a book to replace the Scriptures that we have, I think it's a dangerous road to go down. I really do. I think it's very dangerous when we do that. So I just wanted to leave that with you. I don't worry about the different Bibles that were out there, but I will get a Septuagint. I prefer to use a time of study. And I will say, I had a Septuagint. I still have it. And I would tell you, it's a very, very good book. You read it backwards. The one that I had, because it was in Hebrew and then it went over to English. It was a very good book. It was called the Haftorah's Pentateuch, but they call it the Septuagint. But and they call it the Pentateuch because it was the first 5 books, but it was the Septuagint. And when you read it, like I said, you read the book backwards. Instead of reading it this way from left to right, you actually read the Hebrew from right to left. But then they had a column, and then they had a second column where you would read the English translation like you normally do. But you still start in the back of the book. So the back of the book was page 1 and moving forward. So if it was 500 pages, if you were looking to what we consider to be the front of the book, it was really the back of the book. Very good. Commentary, very good. I really enjoyed that. It gave me some good insight. It was good. It was good. I can't knock it at all. But when I read the translation in English, what they had translated, I didn't find anything different in the King James Version Bible. So I just wanted to leave that with you all. Thank you all for all tuning in. Octavius Nixon. How you doing, Octavius Nixon? I think that's Brother Nixon, if I'm not for sure. Biblical T, how you doing? Uh, Octavius says, study show that self-approval, line upon line, the truth will line up. It does. It really does. Um, I don't use the Apocrypha. People who are not comfortable with it, I'll just I'll just show them in the King James Version Bible. Yeah, I mean that's, I think I think if you are a teacher, I think it's good to look at what other versions that may be out there to familiarize yourself for when they do come up, because they do come up. Um, but I teach and read out of the King James Version Bible. Brother Rodney, how you doing? So I just wanted to leave this 30 minutes with you all. I didn't want to make it long. I'm at the gas station. Probably the gas prices are down in South Florida. Somebody probably wants me to hurry up and get out of the way so they can get some of this cheap gas. I don't know what the gas prices are where you are, but down here regular gas is $2.21. It was $2.22. I came today hoping that it was going to still be $2.22, and it's $2.21. So I'm going to get some of this nice cheap gas. I'm going to fill up my tank. I've been riding on empty since yesterday because I wanted to come to this particular station to get it. So 221. I don't know where it's at in you. Rodney says it's 211 in Houston. Well, oil's in Houston, Rodney. So I expect it to be 211, about 10%, 10 cents lower than across the country in the lowest spot of the place. Quiana says, don't do that, Pastor Johnson. You'll blow your fuel pump. 287 in Philadelphia? Oh my gosh. Man, I haven't seen those prices. And I know Brother Rodney in Dallas, Texas, where all the oil is, not all of it, but quite a bit in the United States. He's got a good price. They should be paying you all. They should be paying every resident in the state of Texas money, because once you become a citizen, a resident, they should pay you all, like they do in Alaska for taking the oil. But everybody would be moving to there. Well, listen, thank you all very much. I'm going to be coming on maybe later tonight. I'm not for sure. Maybe not. I did change some icons on some of the Sabbath lessons. I like the one I just did for Esther. Check it out. I like it. I found a good thumbnail for that. So all that being said, peace and shalom to all of you all. We will talk soon.